ready. It sounds like everybody else is ready, so I'll get started. All right, good evening and Happy New Year. Once again, Happy New Year. I called to order the regular meeting of Grover Beach City Council Monday, January 26th, 2026. This meeting may also be viewed on cable channel 20 in Grover Beach and is available on live streaming on www.slow-span.org. Members of the public may provide public comment during the meeting by attending the meeting or calling 805-321-6639. The phone line is now open. We do not have a flag salute student, so if you would please just join me in the flag salute. All right, thank you. Now I will call on City Clerk Sims for the roll call, please.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll.
Here.
Councilmember Tuggle.
Here.
Councilmember Wyrick.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert.
Here.
Mayor G.
Here. All right, now we'll move on to closed session announcements. I'll call on City Attorney Thompson.
I have nothing to announce.
Okay, thank you. And can we make sure that all of our microphones are on and loud? Thank you. Okay, now to agenda review. Council members, do any of you have any questions or changes you would like to make? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have consensus. We will now move on to the ceremonial calendar. And we have a very special item tonight for our ceremonial calendar. We have the proclamation honoring Clifford Clark, and this is going to be received by Corky Henderson, his daughter. So, proclamation of the Grover Beach City Council honoring Clifford Clark. Whereas Mr. Clifford Clark moved with his wife, Mary Lee, and young children to the unincorporated community of Grover City in 1957. And whereas in 1959, Mr. Clark became the first city clerk and city attorney for the newly incorporated Grover City. In fact, he not only crafted many of the original documents necessary for incorporation, but also drove to Sacramento with his young family to ensure the documents could be recorded before the end of the calendar year, thus ensuring the city would not be delayed in receiving its first check for sales tax revenue. And whereas in 1961, Mr. Clark and some local businessmen joined together to start a community bank called Mid-State Bank, which eventually had branches throughout the Central Coast. And whereas Mr. Clark also volunteered and supported the then all-volunteer Grover City Fire Department. He was honored in 1992 for his more than 30 years of service to the city as a member of the fire department. And whereas Mr. Clark was instrumental in obtaining and donating the properties necessary for the organization and implementation of the Ramona Garden Park, as well as the Exploration Station Children's Center located in the city's first fire station. And whereas Mr. Clark and his wife, Mary Lee, started the Grover Beach Community Library in front of his law office building. And whereas one of his most substantial contributions to the community was the development of the Clark Center, located on Lucia Mar Unified School District property in Arroyo Grande. This state-of-the-art performing arts center was the original idea of Mr. and Mrs. Clark, who recognized there was a need to provide a center that could serve the cultural and educational needs of the community. And whereas the list of accomplishments could indeed go on, but suffice to say, Mr. Clifford Clark was truly a civic pioneer and worthy of the first mayor's commendation in November of 2012. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Grover Beach City Council does hereby officially honor Clifford Clark for his legacy of service to Grover Beach and the surrounding area. Before we bring Ms. Henderson up here, I'd like to open up for public comment from people in our audience here. So I'll start with Bob Peralt.
Just a few comments regarding Clifford. I first met Cliff after coming to town in 2006, which doesn't seem so long ago now, but was 20 years ago. Cliff has always been an example to me of a citizen public servant that you just could not, you could always count on him. He was so special, and he never did anything for self-aggrandizement. It was all about the community, and he created quite a legacy. Two personal anecdotes I would like to share. Debbie, who's in the audience with me, and I have been married for 54 years. Early in our married life, we had very close family friends that lived in North Hollywood, the DiMaggios. And Al DiMaggio was quite a hunter. And we would meet the DiMaggios several times during the year, and Al would always relate to us, how the stories about hunting with Red up in San Luis Obispo County. Never did we know that Red was Clifford Clark until visiting with the DiMaggios. They came up to visit several years ago as well, and they let us know and that Red was really Clifford Clark, and we enjoyed all those hunting stories. The other thing that I remembered is that spent a lot of obviously Sunday afternoons at Ramona Park, and you could always find Cliff in the same location, sitting above the dance area, wearing his plaid shirt, suspenders, and chewing on that toothpick. He will always, he has a legacy here that will live well beyond him, and for that we're all grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Peterson.
I only had one conversation that I can recall with Clifford Clark, and in fact it wasn't really a conversation because near the end he didn't hear very well. But when I was first elected as the mayor, he came up to me at one of the pancake breakfasts and he said, "You know, sometimes we attorneys have gotten it wrong." That's something I really loved about him. He could say that. He could come back and say it could be done differently, it could be done better. And what he said was, we city attorneys, need to make sure we're looking out for the rights of the people, especially the women in the community, and not the council, not the mayor, but the people of the community. And that really influenced me.
Thank you. I do not have any other speaker slips. Does anybody else wish to come up and speak? Go ahead, Ms. Osti, and then Mr. Ekbaum. Ms. Osti had her hand up first.
You didn't have to tell him that. Well, I remember being fortunate enough to present Clifford and Mary Lee with the Citizen of the Year for Arroyo Grande. And I had to do a little research, and I talked to Corky and so on, and found out that they had gone to a dance, but not together. But her person that she came with had left, and so Clifford said he would drive her home. And I said, "Clifford, I didn't know they had a car then." He says, "Barely." But anyway, he was always such a joy, and he helped us both legally, professionally, and friendship, and the community is at a great loss without him. But luckily, they left Corky and her family. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've known Clifford for a lot of years. What an interesting guy. I don't think anybody has done more for this community than Clifford Clark. Anybody. Things to talk about when you'd see him chewing on a toothpick, looked like the old country lawyer, and then did so much for the city, and such a quiet guy. And then you'd hear about his excursions up into Alaska, flying around by himself for weeks at a time. Just two different people, but what a great person. We were lucky to have him. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Yes, Ms. Santos?
Yes, Mother. I was very lucky. I've been here since 1969, and having the opportunity to serve for this city and with great people, with David and numerous people, and I wish we had the picture of everybody who served in our council. It'd be awesome to bring a lot of memories back. I have a lot of history that I'm storing, so that way you guys would understand what Grover happened. And I would like to say that when I first met Clifford, I was kind of scared because here's this little red guy with a toothpick and, you know, looking at us and telling us, you should do this and we're going to do that. And it's like, okay. But anyway, what an awesome gentleman. He was always smiling, always ready to do the job, get it done. He was always for Grover City back then, Grover Beach now. He had a lot of dreams, and I hope we've got to get a lot of those dreams for him. And one of the biggest dreams I can remember, I don't know if we were at a sports event or whatever, but he said, you know, I don't like sitting out here outside on these benches. He says, we're going to have to build an area so when my grandkids and my kids grow up, they can have a place to go into, and that was his idea of the Clark Center. So there's many stories that we could tell you, but time's short, so we'll tell you another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Okay, let's go here first and then to Ms. Bright.
My name's Les Henderson.
And if you could pull the mic up for you. There you go. There you go.
Cliff was my father-in-law, and he was the best man I've ever known. He just was, I'm sorry, but he was like a father to me. He thought of anything, you know, as far as, because I was with him, let me get my composer. But I flew with him a lot. And I went everywhere with him and learned about him, as far as a good man for what, you know, he's done around this area. One thing I remember is that my wife told me is that we always wanted to know why the line coming down Oak Park Boulevard, the line between Rio Grande and Grover City, that Cliff went door to door. I can't remember who else, but him and another gentleman went door to door and asked him personally, do you want to be on Rio Grande side, or you want to be on Grover side? And that's why the line's so crooked. Because it goes down and it turns, goes this way and goes back. And just he was very thoughtful. He thought of a lot of things. A very bright man. And you know, he's so bright as this. I'm a pilot too, and I took the test for, you know, your written test, and I probably got about 80%. Talked to him, and I said, "What'd you get on your test, Cliff?" 100%. So I talked to my wife, and I says, you know, I know your dad's so bright. She said he has a photographic memory. Mm-hmm. So any test he took was 100%.
Wow.
That's all.
Thank you. Miss Bright, I think you were next.
Thank you. I'm here because Dee bullied me into it. Actually, I too met Clifford Clark later in life, so it was very hard for him to hear me, but I talked all the time. And but truly, this city would not be what it is without Clifford Clark and his family and all that they have done. And it's just that I have so much gratitude for that gentleman and his family that I just wanted to say so. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Yes, go ahead. I hope we can all feel the love for Mr. Clark in this room. I mean, it's just so powerful.
My name's Lance Millian, and I had the opportunity to serve on the Grover Beach Fire Department with Clifford for many years. And it was really interesting because I was usually off on Mondays and I would hang out at the fire department. We would get a call, and here would be these two lawyers running across the street from his offices, putting aside everything else to serve the people of Grover Beach when they needed help. And they would run from their office, put on their turnouts, get on an engine, go do a fire call, come back, take everything off, go back over to their office, and go to their job. So they would put aside everything they were doing to help the people of Grover Beach, and that's who Clifford Clark was. So I really appreciated him, knowing him, and he always had kind words for everybody, and I'll always remember him.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Seeing nobody move forward, I don't think there's anybody on the line for this item. No, thank you. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council. Would anybody like to start with comments? Council comments?
I just want to say what a great man Clifford Clark was. I've met him a few times and had some conversations, and he had some good stories. And Corky, I'm glad you're here tonight to honor his memory. And he believed in this community, not just, he just was so heartfelt about the community, and his spirit will always be with us, and we'll miss him terribly. Thank you.
As a newer member of the community, I did not have the privilege of knowing him, but I've heard fantastic stories, and I appreciate those that stood up and shared, and I appreciate the spirit in which he served our community. So thank you.
I too never had the privilege, but I just want to say the family, you should be very, very proud of your father, the legacy he's left for us. As the mayor said, I feel the love in this room. I hope you do too, and I hope you carry it with you in your heart always.
I'll say that the first time I was aware I was around him was at the Clark Center, and people were talking about all these great things. And then I was like, well, where'd the Clark come from? And they started talking about Clifford Clark. And I'm like, oh, who is it? And then they're like, that guy right there. And it's true. He was very unassuming. And he heard I was talking about this. And was just like, yeah. I mean, it was one of those parts that was very reassuring, that all the stuff that he did, all these things I take for granted that are in their community, these assets, wasn't just something that you do it once and twice. It was a true legacy, and I really do want to thank you, Corky, because you've kept his legacy going this whole time too. In times where he was able to do less, he would be like, Corky, make it happen, and you made it happen. I mean, the fact that the legacy is even continuing on with people's self-help housing, the Cleveland Clark Commons is coming up. I mean, there's so many things that people won't always understand, that it was there because he did it, and let's be honest, very few people really go to that length, and the fact that he did it, shows something that's not just special and unique, but truly a part of a character that I wish to aspire to. And Corky, you're already doing it though too. So thank you for all of your parts.
I really can't follow that. I mean, that was amazing. On a personal level, my family has been connected to the Clark family for the longest time. Thank you for giving them some work to do. They needed some work to do. So, no, but the Clark family, Mr. Clark, and you all have really, truly contributed directly to my own quality of life, but the quality of life for all of our Grover Beach, 5 cities, SLO County residents, all the way from the Grover Beach Library to the Clark Center, Exploration Station. I remember taking theater classes at the Exploration Station. I grew up in the Grover Beach Library, the Clark Center, same thing. So I just thank you so much, and we're so proud of this family and the legacy that you all are continuing. I'm just so grateful. So thank you so much. I would like to invite you to come up and say a few words if you would like, and then afterwards, if you wanted to take a picture with the proclamation.
You have to bring my sister, because our family home on North 6th Street was purchased by her first husband. And so we're sisters because we live in the same house.
How's that?
So my father never wanted to get personal credit for anything. He was so afraid you would name, you meaning Alphonse Bivou, would name that Clark Park. He was so afraid that that would become Clark Park, Ramona Garden. The South County Performing Arts Building Foundation was where he raised money for 28 years to build the Performing Arts Center. And when Dad went away on vacation, every year he flew his little airplane to Alaska. One year he came back and they had changed the corporate name from South County Performing Arts Building Foundation to Clark Center, and he was so mad.
Did he get off the plane?
He got into trouble because he's a lawyer. And he has a lot of clients that named their beneficiaries of their estate would be the Clark Center. The Attorney General office called him and said, "What's this about? Your name is Clifford Clark. Your charity's name is Clifford Clark. There's millions of dollars going into your charity." They thought it was nefarious, so it was a close call. And Jay Johnson said, "See, Cliff, I told you so."
Where is he?
So he really, Dad didn't want the credit. He really didn't know about the Cleaver Commons. He died too soon, but he would not have wanted his name up there either, because it was Bob and Levon Cleaver. You know, that was really. But it sounds cool, like Cleaver.
We're going to keep it.
Let's not tell him though. No one tell him. Thank you so much for tonight. My dad would love to have been here. He was really hoping to have his funeral before he died, so that he could. So he could appear. He loves all of you all, especially these. Oh man, thank you so much for showing up. And Steve Lieberman, oh man, what a thrill. Thank you so much for tonight. Very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Love you. Thank you.
They're going to take your picture.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see. I don't see any shuffling. I was going to take a 5-minute break in case anybody wanted to make a move for it, because this was a very important part. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break really quick, okay? Thank you. We'll be back a little bit before 6:30. Yes, thank you. Mm-mm. Oh, I don't know. Good. Okay. All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for your patience. Okay, we do not have any presentations, so we will now move on to public communications. Our meetings are designed to proceed in an organized and efficient manner to effectively conduct city business. The council welcomes and values public comments, which can be shared at the designated time from the podium using the microphone. The council requests that all comments be addressed to the council as a whole and that speakers refrain from directing individual comments at staff members. To maintain an orderly process, we kindly ask all attendees to refrain from creating disruptions during the meeting, interrupting the speakers who are addressing the council, or impeding on the council's ability to conduct business. Should disruptions occur, the council may need to take certain measures such as calling a recess, clearing the chambers, or in rare circumstances, canceling the meeting. We greatly appreciate your understanding and cooperation in maintaining a productive environment that serves our entire community effectively. During this time, the council will allow for public communication. Any member of the public may address the council for a period not to exceed 3 minutes total on any item of interest within the jurisdiction of this council. The council will listen to all communications. However, in compliance with the Brown Act, the council cannot act on or discuss items not on the agenda. So I have some speaker slips here. We will start with Catherine Sells, followed by Kelvin Coveduck. Thank you, Chief.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I want to talk about the intersection at Grand and 4th Street. I live off 4th Street on Mentone, and so I go through that intersection a lot. The light is very long, but there are no turn signals. There are no designated turn lights for that intersection, and they're really, really needed. I think it would be an easy fix, and it would get traffic moving more quickly. I've sat through the light twice waiting to turn left because there's no signal for that. So just an idea, and I think it would help the traffic flow a lot better.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sells. We have Kelvin Coveduck, followed by Christopher Macaron. Macaron? Am I saying it? It's going to take me a little bit. All right, Mr. Coveduck, hello.
Hello. Hello again. I wanted to thank the City Council and everybody for putting the Front Street project on the agenda in March. That was in the last meeting, and it's much appreciated that you're going to be looking at that. And of course, I don't have to remind everybody, but it's to lower the heights to 33 feet, which would stay within the scale of the other buildings built by Mr. Ford in 2004. He actually has an office in one of those buildings. The spacing between the buildings there is approximately 30 feet. I measured it today. It would be nice to keep the spacing 30 feet. It's proposed to be 15 feet. This is all things you're going to, address. So I just, a lot of times we get up and we come across as negative, but I'm just glad that we can all work together. Basically that's what I wanted to say. The only other thing is, someone mentioned in a previous meeting that our census is going down. And I looked that up today, and from 2020 to 2026, our population has gone down by 1,000 people. Which makes you wonder, well, we're doing all this building, but our population's not going up. So one would think, why is that? And I think logic would say that, well, there are a lot of second homes where people aren't considered full-time residents, and so they're not going to be part of the census. They're also not going to be part of the community. So there was a New Times article that maybe a lot of people, it's on the cover right now. Maybe a lot of people read it, or I read it online. Some of the comments that I saw on the online was that it's an older crowd that is, already have their homes and their views, and they're not looking out for the next generation. But it's not what we're about. We want to see building. We just want to see it responsible. We want to see it in scale. And let's not compare Grand Avenue and the projects that are there with Front Street, which is primarily a residential area. And our population is about 5,000 people per square mile, because we're only about 2.25 square miles. So when you build something that big on the front, it affects people all the way up for 5,000 people. So I'm glad we're all working together. We're on the same team. We're all Grover Beach residents. I still think of it as that. All right, have a nice night. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Christopher Macarone, followed by Linda Walter.
Hi, good evening. Everything Kelvin just spoke about, I am in complete concurrence with. And on that note, a great appreciation to all of you for agendizing this issue of the heights that's you put in for the March agenda. Not often do we get that feedback from the City Council on a request from the public like we got, and I thank you so very much. The woman who spoke a moment ago about the turn lane for 4th Street, Grand has it, if I'm not mistaken, but not 4th. We're getting to the point where it may be a necessity, just a thought, but I just wanted to comment. I thought that was a really great idea. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Linda Walter, followed by Cindy Barkley. Barkley? Hello, Ms. Walter.
I've been here many times before, but tonight I'd like to be more uplifting. Basically, because of Mr. Clark and the Clark Center, which I love. I've been a sponsor there for numerous years, and I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful center. So I just wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say that, reiterating the other two members, or people that just spoke, that I think it's great that we'll be able to talk about this in March. I think it's very needed. I mean, I know there's differing opinions all over the city, but in our little neighborhood, Front Street, Beckett Street, all the way up to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th Street, basically everybody we run into is just so upset that we're losing the view of the ocean from the public streets as you drive. I was driving down Newport today and I looked back and I thought, oh my gosh, that's just such a gorgeous view. And when that building goes up on Front Street, it's not going to be there anymore. And there's no turning back. So I'm so hoping that somehow we can turn, maybe not totally do away with it, but at least make it so that it's a height that we can live with and that we can, you know, adhere to the state mandates, although I'm still confused about, you know, we're way over the top on expensive property, but we haven't met our goals for the people that really need the housing. So just wanted to say that I think that there's hope, and I'm so happy that we'll be talking about it. And I'm probably being a Pollyanna, but oh well. That's what I'm hoping will happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Cindy Barkley, followed by Gabrielle Weeks.
Yeah, it is Barkley. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I was surprised when I realized that the height of those buildings were going to be, I think, 40 feet or whatever it is. So I do appreciate your thinking or addressing the manner of taking it into consideration to lower it. And also I'd like to invite you all to go over and walk that neighborhood. I mean, I see people walking dogs every day, just walking. And yeah, the streets, Brighton has a great view, and I don't want to see those go away. So consider maybe widening the, I forget the name of the, what they call that, the, between the buildings. So that's my main concern. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Gabrielle Weeks, followed by Debbie Peterson.
Hi there. Happy New Year, everybody. I am also here to talk about 4th, but not the buildings, the streets. I live on 5th, and from Grand all the way to the freeway, over a mile, cars are doing freeway speeds. I have talked to the police department, emailed them a few times. They've got a little trailer out there to tell people how fast they're going, and maybe when people see that they're going freeway speeds a little bit before they've hit the freeway, they will slow down. But I just wanted to make you guys aware of this, that I have been emailing Public Works and several other staffers and the police. I asked for a speed trap. And I don't know if that'll make me popular, but when I lived in another city, the police told me that often the person who asks for the speed trap gets a ticket themselves. And I'm like, you know, if I'm going way too fast, go ahead and give me a ticket. But from all the way from 4th, from Grand on down, cars are going so fast, I can't get out there in traffic. And some of the neighbors told me that what they do, because you can't get out unless there's just no traffic, they snake all the way through the neighborhood and they go to Oak Park because there's that traffic calming 4-way stop. And with the 4-way stop, people aren't driving real fast. They know they're all going to come to a stop, and they know they're all going to get their turn. So I, have been asking Public Works and would ask you guys to maybe consider doing something on 4th Street, maybe a 4-way stop or something. Maybe this little trailer that tells us how fast people are going will make people realize that they've got to slow down. But I drive an electric car, so I don't have to cycle through old-fashioned gears. I can stomp and go quick. And I have a real hard time getting out of the neighborhood, or sometimes I'll sit there in the turn lane waiting and waiting because people come in the other direction, and I'm looking at that little trailer, and it's telling me how fast they're going, and it is way too fast. And I can't make a left-hand turn to get home. I got to sit there and wait until people who are in a big hurry and think that's just an extension of the 101 have gone. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, they won't, sometimes when pedestrians at the intersection are trying to go down to look at the monarch butterflies, people at an intersection, they're not crossing mid-street, pedestrians doing exactly what they're supposed to do, sometimes they can't get cars to slow down for them because the cars are going so fast they don't want to try to slam on their brakes, and they just leave people sitting at those corners for a while before somebody nice will stop and allow them to cross. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Debbie Peterson.
I reiterate everything everyone said so far, and I'm on 3rd Street between Grand and Rockaway, and I can hardly cross 4th Street anymore. It's really difficult even to cross to come to a council meeting at 6 o'clock at night. So I think it's time with all the development to start looking at some of that. I'm a real estate broker of 27 years in Grover Beach, and I wanted to talk with you a little bit about a Senate bill that is coming up for a vote tomorrow. And the reason I want to talk with you is because in Grover Beach, we have possibly as many as 400 new condos coming up. And this bill will increase liquidated damages from 3% to 10%. So if I can explain what that means, basically, if a buyer violates a contract and doesn't continue with it, the liquidated damages of 3% mean that 3% of the value of that property goes to the seller who was a victim of a breach of contract. The state, or I should say the bill, wants to increase that now to 10%. And what I'd really like you to do is to think about, why is it only condominiums? If it's a good thing, then why would they only be doing condominiums? But also think about, out of those 400 at this point, there are 2 600 square foot affordable units, which at this stage are probably worth about $140,000 as affordable units. That would be $14,000 for someone who needs an affordable home. And for someone who's buying one of the other condos that these folks are talking about, those are going to be around 1.4 million. And that is 140,000 for the young people who want to buy those condos. And it's not so bad if you're retired and or whatever, it's your second home, okay. But when you're buying your first home at 1.4 million, if there's some reason that you have to pull out of the contract, you will. You could be any of these folks could be bankrupted, or certainly never able to buy again in the future. So I would really like to ask you, as a City Council, to oppose the Assembly Bill, it's a Senate Bill 1406 by Ward. I think they're voting tomorrow. You can go online and tell Dawn Addis, who's our representative, how you feel about it. I will say I don't even know why they're bothering with this, because in 27 years, over 500 properties sold. No one I've worked with, or any of my agents has worked with, has ever had to make use of the liquidated damages clause or been charged for it. So I just think this is something that is not in the best interest of the people of Grover Beach, especially the younger people of Grover Beach.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Peterson. Is there anybody else that wishes to come up and speak on items not on the agenda? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Hey, I called South County Sanitary to stop my trash because I have 40 years of debris I'm cleaning up so I can lease the building. And I contracted it out. They're taking it to the dump for me. And the South County said I couldn't do that because I have water ran to it. First of all, is that true? And second of it all, what does my water have to do with the city of Grover Beach and the garbage company? Or I thought the garbage company was its own entity. I didn't know you guys were affiliated with it. And because why would I pay for it when I have a guy, taking it for me, because I'm cleaning it up. I have 40 years of stuff. I mean, I got a lot of stuff there. And I want to get it leased out, but they said absolutely not. It'll affect your credit. They'll keep billing me even though I'm not having the service. And they don't pick up my recycling. I was looking at my bill. They're charging me for the recycle can, but it says it's free. I'm not understanding why I'm getting charged. So I sent them a bill back. It's because they've been doing it to me for 18 years, so they owe me $2,300, how I looked at it, because they were charging me on something that's supposed to be free. The recycling is free, I thought. Now, is that true? That's some of the questions. Other than that, you guys look good.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you. We'll figure out where to direct you. So, okay. Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Yes, I know. Thank you, Mr. Sky.
Good evening. Lauren Westfall. Real quick, I got a question. As far as the property on 197 in Front Street, the SWCA and the environmental report, according to your Treasury report, you guys paid for that. And I was wondering when council approved for that to be paid for. And why is the city paying for the development report? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come up and speak on items not on the agenda? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? All right, I will now close general public comment. And we will move on to the consent agenda. So the following routine items listed on the consent portion of the agenda are scheduled for consideration as a group. This is the treasurer's reports for the period of December 1st through December 31st, 2025. Treasurer reports for the 2025 sewer bond account. Minutes of the city council meeting on Monday, January 12th. Resolution authorizing display of specified commemorative flags. Contract for professional consultant services for a long-time water supply study, and city manager employment agreement amendment number 4. So I will now open for public comments on the consent agenda. I do have one speaker slip, Debbie Peterson.
I wanted to talk to item number 7, the city manager, and it is not a salary increase. As far as I can tell, it's simply an increase of his contract instead of the original to 2028 to 2030. But I think a really important consideration for the people of Grover Beach who are and our visitors who are paying $18 million in taxes into the general fund is what percentage of that is made up by our city manager and our assistant city manager. And it's coming up for about $750,000, not quite as much as that. That's a huge chunk out of an $18 million income. And I think it would be very helpful for us to know the value of the total package if we're voting on extending it, because that's a big chunk of money that you're asking the people of Grover Beach to finance. And it's a chunk of money that we're not seeing in other communities that have similar tax income and similar populations. And in fact, ours, as we know, is dropped. So it is, to put it on a consent agenda is something, if you Google it, if you look at it, it's considered to be not particularly transparent. And the League of Cities suggests that the best thing to do is to make all these kinds of salaries, put them online, put them on the city's website, so that we, the people who are paying the taxes, know what we're paying the people who are serving us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Does anybody else wish to come up and speak on the consent agenda? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? Okay, I will now close public comments for the consent agenda. Council members, do you have any questions? Want to pull any items? No? Okay, well then I will make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented. May I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor D.
Yes.
Councilmember Tuggle.
Yes.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll.
Yes.
Councilmember Wyrick.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. That passes. We will now move on to we do not have any public hearings, so we will move on to the regular business items. We'll start with item number 8, which is the 2025 community survey results. And I will call on City Manager Erickson to introduce Josh.
I'll stick with assistant for tonight.
Oh, oh no.
It's okay.
Wow. I thought we just approved that contract. Sorry, my bad. Assistant City Manager Erickson. My apologies.
I'd like to introduce Joshua Emenegger, who worked with us on the survey and conducted the survey with Probelski Research. He will be presenting the results tonight.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you guys. So a lot of data to go over, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. This isn't the whole report. You guys have access to the whole report, but this is some of the key findings and top level questions that we can kind of look at here. And there we go. Awesome. Okay, so just to give you guys a brief look at the methodology we used, we went ahead and reached people through phone and online, kind of just meet them where they're at. The survey was offered in English and Spanish, and if you look to the right there, you'll see that 92% of our sample took it in English, 8% took it in Spanish. It was about 15 minutes long. We stuck with voters this time, given that there was some ballot measures on it. We really wanted to go ahead and keep this about the voter electorate on these questions. Did about the last half of October, and 400 participants gives us a margin of error of 5% on that. So, question 1, and this is kind of just a top of the mind thing where we really kind of get people, we don't really give them any aided awareness. We say, hey, what's top of mind? And you can already see what the 2 top things are there, right? Transportation, traffic, roads, infrastructure, number 1. And then number 2, overpopulation, controlling growth, development. And I think that kind of really sees what we've heard from public comment as well today, right? So these are the 2 top things, and this is going to be a theme that we see throughout the other questions. This is exactly what voters are looking at. Question 3 we gave them, we said, how would you rate the overall quality of life in Grover Beach within the past 5 years? 70% there say it's better or saying about the same. So we kind of have those as 2 of our positive answers on this one. You have 27% saying worse, but what I want to draw your attention to is the trend graph up in the top right there. Look at that 2023 number where we actually see staying about the same was the highest, right? It's 45%. 2 years later, we do this, and we see somewhat of a bit of a polarization among voters in Grover Beach. We see that better increased, but we also see that worse increased as well. And that kind of middle group in the middle there, that actually went down there. So I think that's something for us to start paying attention to. And we'll see in further surveys if that continues as well. But you kind of see there, it's very rare for us to see better and worse go up at the same time. So that's something worth paying attention to. Question 4 was a really interesting question that I really enjoyed. We kind of added it right before we went out to field. Very simple. Agree or disagree? I'm proud to be a resident of Grover Beach. 87% say they're proud to be a resident of Grover Beach. And I mean, today was just a perfect example of that today, how much pride is in the community here. When we look at the crosstabs for this, it's all demographics. There's not one group of people who are really pushing this. It's basically everyone in the town, whether they think there's overdevelopment, not enough, they disagree on this. Everyone has a lot of pride in being a resident of Grover Beach here, so it's really nice to see on that question. Q5. In general, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the services provided by the city of Grover Beach? Here we have 74% are currently satisfied. And this is a very good number for what we see from very similar towns in California as well. 74% is a very good number for that. Again, what I want to draw your attention to, though, is that trend line. And this is exactly what you want to see, right? Where we kind of see back in 2017, you had a third of people saying they were, either dissatisfied, unsatisfied overall. That has gone down every single time we've done the survey. Look at the blue there. That has increased until this year, which is, about exactly the same there, 75%, 74%. So whenever we kind of see these linear movements here, that is such a great example of progress being happened here that we can go all the way back to 2017 and see that all the way up now to 2025. So we asked that group, though, that kind of 21% there, why are you unsatisfied with the services of the city of Grover Beach? And look at number 1 right there, and we're kind of starting to see a theme, right? Neglect of existing infrastructure, services particularly looking at streets. Those were the ones that were mentioned the most. And then number 2, also not a shocker there, overdevelopment of new infrastructure. These are kind of the key things that are on people's minds here. But the fact that we see streets and roads coming up again and again as an issue, this is something that voters very much care about here, and we kind of see that in other questions here, which is great for survey data because you can kind of really focus in on what they're looking at and what they need to be done. Question 7. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of the city of Grover Beach is doing to effectively manage and spend taxpayer dollars and public funds? Currently, we have 50% say they have a favorable opinion. Now, I will let you know that this is also a good number. Most of other communities that we've surveyed, particularly going back to the election in November, so let's say about 15 months or so, most kind of have unfavorable being the top one there, right? Most are underwater. So the fact that you still have that about of a 9-10% delta there is good. But then we look at the trend lines too. From 2021, we had about 25% there, and then 32, and then that's up to 40. We are seeing this all across the state. And beyond the state, we're seeing it all across the country. We do surveys in Colorado, New York, Georgia, North Carolina, and we're seeing similar numbers starting exactly in 2021, right? I wouldn't be surprised if this basically correlates exactly with the CPI. As we're seeing inflation become an issue, the affordability crisis is hitting people every year. As they're making their dollars stretch for themselves and their personal lives, they want you to do the same, right? And they're going to be a little bit more each time focused on how my tax-paying money is spent, and is it being spent appropriately in an efficient manner. So with this right here, we can really see going back how much that affordability crisis has started to allow voters to really pay attention to how their tax dollars are being spent. So question 14 and question 15, this is sort of kind of a back-to-back. So we give them the same list of services here, right? In the very first one, we say, what's the most important to you personally? And what do you know? What's first right there? Repairing and maintaining city streets and repairing potholes. Now, number 2, rapidly responding 9/11. Number 3, fire and EMS. That's the stuff that we're used to seeing up here, right? Those are the ones that usually come up to the top of these kind of services, what's most important. So the fact that you're seeing city streets and potholes rising above that, this is, again, your voters telling you, hey, this is what we kind of really need to focus in on going forward here. Ask them the same list of services, but this time we say, okay, well, what are you satisfied with? Again, 9/11 emergency, very satisfied. Fire, EMS, much so. Whoever's handling the festivals, community events is killing it. They're doing a great job on that. But when we kind of go into some of the lower half of the list there, and there we see reducing traffic on city streets, repairing, maintaining city streets and repairing potholes, repairing and maintaining sidewalks. So again, these are some of the services that where you can see have lower satisfaction, but they are important. And I think the best way to really kind of visualize this is this right here. So we put satisfaction on the x-axis on the bottom there. We put important kind of on the y-axis so you can see. And so when we look at this chart right here, that top left quadrant, okay, upper left quadrant, something that's important but satisfaction is low, that's kind of our opportunity zone. That's the area that we're kind of looking at, okay, here's something that's important to our voters, but they're not currently being satisfied with it. So the very fact that we see repairing and maintaining city streets, repairing potholes, kind of existing in that quadrant, this is just data that backs up data that backs up data. They're being very open and clear with what they're kind of wanting to see happen in the next future. Question 16 here. So we say, okay, and this is to everybody, right? All 400 of the respondents open-ended response so they could tell us in their own words, and you guys have kind of access to read the verbatims of everybody in their own words. We went ahead and coded it here. Thinking about city services you were unsatisfied with, what are your suggestions? Anything on how the city can improve these services? Let's look at the top 4 there, because I think this is interesting. Better governance, better budgeting. This is usually kind of what we see, somewhat of a bit more of an abstract, but they kind of do want people to just kind of, pick up, do better on this job stuff. But look at what the other 2 are. Road street repairs, 12.8% there at number 2. And then traffic control, adding lights, signage. We already heard 2 or 3 comments in this one alone based on that there. So again, we really are seeing that they're focused in on these streets and the repairs that need to be happening for this. So I kind of want to go through these somewhat quickly, but these are the city council community goals, right? And so let's just kind of go through them real quick. I'll provide a little bit of context on each one. First one here was, how would you rate the city's efforts to ensure public safety and community service? 90% rated these are good or fair. Again, from what we see on other places, this is very, very high. So something that your police department, fire, EMS, they can hang their hats on. Very proud number to have this right here. Second goal we had was, how would you rate the city's efforts on economic development and housing? And this one we have 68% saying good or fair. Now, first thing you'll notice probably is fair being much higher than the good here, unlike the last one. So again, much more people kind of in the middle there saying, oh, decent, good amount of job here. We count that as positive. Good's a little bit lower, but you do have that 27% poor there. And again, on questions like economic development and housing, we are kind of going to see kind of that 27% peak up again and again on these things. This next city council goal, how would you rate the city's efforts in maintaining community infrastructure? 78% actually rated as good or fair. Now this number surprised me because we kind of see from the other questions, they're saying, hey, the streets, they need repairment. So from what we see from here is they're going to give you a little bit of grace. They know what you want. They know what you need to do. They know what happens. But so far they're saying, hey, things have been okay, but it might be time to really start paying attention to this here. 78% is a good number, but again, this is something that we want to keep an eye on going forward in the future. Then this question here, Q20, we asked them, how would you rate the city's efforts in financial and organizational sustainability? Now, 62% is actually a pretty good number for this question. Again, kind of looking at other similar communities in California, and then, national-wide, but mainly looking at California given the fiscal scenarios. This is actually a pretty good number here, more than what we see in other towns. But again, we do see fair, meaning more than good. So this is another one that we do want to keep paying attention to. Good number, but we want to keep this going in the future. Q21, this is mainly just kind of focusing in on how the city's efforts in maintaining water and sewer infrastructure and needed resources are doing. 76% are say this is good or fair. You have about 20% saying poor on that as well. Kind of looked at the demographics. No major pushes on here. This was kind of just everyone kind of feeling this way on this one here. And then finally, we had this city council goal, which was how would you rate the city's efforts in rebuilding community trust, community engagement, and civility in public discourse? And 73% rated as good or fair. It's actually a very high good number there too, 35% on that. And I think I got a really good lesson kind of in this question from here today, right? We're having people who disagree on things. We're having people who might, disagree on certain developments happening in certain parts of the city. And yet you don't see a tearing of kind of the social fabric of the city here. Everyone kind of realizes, hey, we're on the same team. we can work together, we can figure out a way to where we can make everyone at least somewhat happy, right? So I think this is a really good result for the city council to kind of see this here that, yes, there are disagreements, but it's not a war. People are not going at each other. There still is a belief in the common goal of Grover Beach here. So now we get into the development questions. So thinking about new development in Grover Beach, would you say that there is too much, too little, or is the amount of development in Grover Beach just about right? And just to let you know, we're going to go through different types of development, keeping the same scale, right? So we'll go ahead and see the same scale in other ones. But overall, this is kind of the big one, right? Development in Grover Beach overall. You have 50% right now saying too much. You have about a third there saying just about right, and then a smaller amount, 13%, saying too little, with a few people unsure on that. And then I think what's interesting for this question here, this is the only one that I kind of wanted to dive into the demographics bit. And from what we see here on this, you can kind of see a bit of a generational shift there. Now, I don't want to overstate it, right, because we still see kind of too much, still kind of leading, and then just about right being much bigger among the younger generations. But you really do see kind of the cliff there at 50, right? Generations under 50 are much more likely to see too little. Generation over 50, much more likely to say too much. So this is another thing to keep in mind, kind of this generational split. So again, still quite a bit of people among those younger generations under 50 saying too much, but we do see, when we see that much of a drop off, right, at that kind of 50 level, something to pay attention to coming forward. Then we ask them, thinking specifically about single-family homes, right? And so this is the same scale that we use for the others. And then look at this. 77% say either too little or just about right. So that means that we still kind of have this platonic ideal of single-family homes that are still very popular in Grover Beach. When you talk to voters and they want housing, they're still thinking in terms of picket fences, yards, the classic single-family house. So the fact that we're kind of seeing that 18% too much, still people have in mind single-family house is what they're looking for on this. Always popular. You're not seeing kind of like a younger urbanist crowd kind of pushing against that, at least in Grover Beach here, that we see in some other communities. Now this one asks about development of apartments, condos in Grover Beach. Would you say too much, too little, or is it just about right? Here we see that 58% say that it's too much of condos, multifamily. You have about a little bit more than a quarter, say just about right, and then too little, 13.5% there. And then kind of whenever we looked at this number, that kind of slight majority, mostly pushed by older residents and current homeowners. Not too much of a surprise there. But again, we are seeing that, you still have a 58% there saying too much of the multifamily housing. So again, keep that in mind as well. But I also wanted to kind of present it as it's not a monolith, right? You're still seeing other groups of people in the city pushing for other things. Lesser amounts, of course, but this isn't a complete 90% on some of these things. Thinking specific about commercial buildings, right? Would you say this is too much, too little, any kind of commercial development? And here was kind of interesting because it's a bit split, right? You got 31% saying too much on commercial development, 42%, the plurality, most of them are saying this is just about right. And then you have about a 20% there saying too little. Now, we do kind of see these splits when it comes to commercial development. They're for everybody, right? Everybody wants to go to a restaurant. Everybody wants to go shopping. So from what we see here is a good chunk of that middle of just about right on commercial. You're not seeing such a strong pushback as you would see on, say, multifamily apartments, condos, that kind of thing. Now we get to the ballot measures. So Q27, we give them the whole kind of, and what we try to do with these is we really want to kind of recreate the election scenario. So don't want to give them no preambles, just here's the exact kind of ballot language that you would see going into the voting booth if this was on a ballot measure. And what we see from here is 49% would say no to the sales tax. So this is the sales tax one. We're going to ask a partial one after this. But right now what we see is 49% say no. Now, I will say this. I want to provide a little bit of context from what I've seen throughout, say, again, the past 15 months, I would say, since the November election in 24. Throughout California, I think I've seen one sales tax that we've pulled so far positive. All the others have been negative. There is very, very little appetite for this type of stuff right now. Again, it's the affordability crisis. We're going to see that on the reasons why people say this. So we asked them, okay, those who you voted yes, right? We take that 37%. Why would you vote yes for this? The number one issue, and this really does align with what we see in other communities, keeps the community safe, reduces crime. So anytime we kind of see these ballot measures, the biggest reason why supporters support it are for safety reasons. If you can convince me you're going to give me a few more cops, a few more patrols, you can increase, safety around my neighborhood, then yes, I will think about maybe, agreeing to a little bit more of a tax hike for that if I can see public safety being improved, right? We asked people, okay, that 49% that are against the measure of the sales tax, why? 35.6% right there. Taxed enough, already taxed. I don't have any more to give you. I'm sorry, make do with what you got. We see 19% maybe not trusting with managing finances. I have no doubt that probably would have been lower in 2021. Again, as we saw from kind of Q4, that number increasing. People are much more cognizant and eagle-eye of how their money's being spent now. And then look at 14% there, affordability issues. Again, your citizens are making do with much less because of inflation. It's natural that they would kind of expect their electeds to do the same, right? So now let's hop into the parcel tax vote. And we kind of gave them the same thing, same amenities, same benefits that we have. We gave them how much it would be per residential parcel here, how much it would bring in for the city, and we're still seeing 52% say no. Now, to give you some context, I think I told you I saw one sales tax in positive. I have not seen a single parcel tax positive in polling in the past, year and a half or so. There is no appetite for any type of parcel tax going on this. So I would suggest that kind of looking at these numbers going forward, the sales tax would be the one that would have a much better chance. And given where you are, this would be kind of a multi-year process, kind of building up towards that. The parcel tax is going to be a much, much bigger lift if it was to go forward and to actually promote something like that. So let's go ahead and look at the reasons why, though. Why would you vote yes for the measure? Well, there it is again, 32%. Safety, crime prevention, 17.2% there saying it's important for emergency services. So again, whenever we kind of look at these ballot measures, if citizens feel like they are getting a benefit in a public safety way, whether that's police, whether that's fire and EMS, they're much more likely to vote yes on these things, right? If they're not getting that public safety benefit out of it, then they're really not seeing anything else for it, right? So again, if we kind of want to see this going into the future, if they are going to vote yes, they're going to need that public safety element being a huge and critical part of the tax measure going forward. Vote no. Number one, prevent tax hike. Same what we saw in the sales tax, right? Just can't do it anymore. We are overtaxed. I have nothing else to give you. And then look at almost 20% there, financial burden. Again, I can guarantee you if we asked this 5 years ago, that would probably be a little bit lower on the list, right? But again, we are seeing an affordability crisis, not just in Grover Beach, not just in California, but all across the country. Like I presented a poll not too long ago in North Carolina, did one in New York, and we're seeing the exact same thing. Everyone is feeling the stress and pain on their pocketbooks. And so whenever we have these tax measures, this is usually one of the top reasons why they're saying, hey, we just don't have any left. We're making do. Can you all make do as well, right? So that was just kind of some of the high-level facts. There's tons more data. We have tons more questions as well. I believe you also have the verbatims, which are always a fun read, where you can actually read voters in their own words, what they said, right, before we code them. And then what we do is we provide like a little demographic overlay on that, so you can see, this was a woman, 50 to 59, who lives in District 1, and, so forth like this. And then you can read her kind of quote there. And so I think we call it bedtime reading. It's it's a little fun to kind of go through all those and see, in their own words, what your voters are talking about. Demographics, this is a little bit what you look like. Now, again, I want to reiterate, too, in the past we've did residents, right? And so when we do voters, I really wanted to get you that full sample of voters so we can give you the utmost confidence on those ballot measures. That was number one key thing for us. The big differences when we do residents voters tends to be a little bit older and a little bit much more homeowners, right? So I think if you look at past ones, we had maybe less homeowners, a little bit more renters, bit more of this when we do voters as well. So keep that in mind too, of how the sample may have shifted a little bit. But again, residents, voters, not too big of a difference on that as well. So that was just kind of big high-level keys. I know that's a lot of data. I just threw at everyone here. But if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer. If I don't have an answer right now, we'd be glad to dig into it and get you an answer at a later point as well.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I know that the rest of the document is just it is a really fun read, actually, to go down and look at all the demographics and everything. So we will start with our council questions. I'll start with my left. Do you have any questions? Councilmember Wyrick?
Yeah, the first one's just since it wasn't explicitly stated in the presentation, in case anyone's wondering. So what was the survey period? And as far as since the firm's hired to, how is this statistically significant?
Yeah, absolutely. So back on the methodological page, we saw that this was October 15th to October 29th. So this was the second half of October when we did this one as well. And what we do with this is basically when it comes to polling and to really make sure that this is statistically significant is we basically just try to recreate a model of your own city and hit your own demographics, right? So we looked at the kind of the voter list, the electorate of just all registered voters, right? Not a turnout model, which is different, but just all registered voters. And it's up to us to hit your ethnicity dead on, your age groups dead on, your gender dead on, your home type, your income, all those demographics, right? And so what we have in this 400 sample is basically a little mini version of Grover Beach. And we try to hit all those quotas as well. And by matching all those, we really are able to have a lot more confidence in this data, right? Because no doubt you on your own as council members, you hear from people all the time, right? But how do you get those people who you may not hear from? That's why we do this type of polling. Another thing I want to point out too on kind of the methods here is we did no weighting on this. A lot of times it's popular for some polling firms to say, oh, well, we didn't quite get enough of young people, or we don't have enough of this ethnic group, right? Well, let's just go ahead and weight the data, and whatever the answers we have, we'll just increase the size of it, right, of those answers. Again, it's acceptable. It's fine. You'll find other polling firms do that. We don't really like to do that. What we like to do is just keep calling, keep emailing, keep texting, keep reaching out to where every person on that survey is a real person, right? We're going to keep calling till we hit those demographics, and there's no waiting involved, no kind of no inflation of already pre-existing answers. So you can be confident that these are all 400 absolute respondents' real answers for this as well.
Thank you for that. And one thing too is, as far as when the question related to community infrastructure, that kind of language, is there a certain take that you've seen from others when you've done polling on? Because it is kind of governmental speak in that way too, or as far as the disconnect, could it be because they're like, well, what does that mean? Or
Yeah. I mean, those kind of whenever we do kind of council goals or maybe even some type of strategic planning stuff, and we'll use some of those, that could explain some of it. But honestly, I would kind of like look at that question and maybe look at the demographics, and that might be pointing. And if we're kind of seeing the same stuff that we see in the other infrastructure questions and the other street repair questions, then we can have a lot more faith and confidence in those numbers as well. But yeah, kind of whenever we kind of have some of the government speak, we do kind of have those abstract questions. But I think the best thing when we look at that stuff, dive into the demographics and see if they align with what we see in the other stuff. And when we looked at that, they do. So yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that. And when it came to the development part, that phrase "just about right," that's. I'm not sure if you all got a sense of what context people understand that to mean.
Yeah. So usually, what we take at the "just about right" is whatever the current pace is, they're okay with that. Basically, they're not saying you're going too fast in building stuff. You're not saying, oh, you're doing too slow. We're going to get left behind. The cities around us are going to pass us by. They're basically saying that the pace that you've been on in the past few years, we're okay with that and fine with that. And something that we like to do, too, with questions like that is it's very popular to kind of have a 5-point scale or a 10-point scale on these questions like that. We just think people don't really think in terms of that. What's 7 to different people, what's a 5 to me could be an 8 to someone else. So by keeping it with kind of that plain language, too much, too little, just about right. And if you're not sure what those are, we give you an out too, to say, I honestly, I don't know, I'm unsure, right? That's kind of why we keep it with that scale there, because it's just very readable and understandable for people taking the survey.
And my last one at this time is, as far as people's impressions of what condos versus apartments mean, since there's kind of an inherent understanding of socioeconomic differences too, is there a sense that if those two were separate, there might have been different clarity on it?
Yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, I can't answer that because we didn't separate them, so I don't want to, just pontificate on that. I will say, though, we did not make a difference on that because we wanted to focus on the multifamily housing aspect of it, not necessarily the type of ownership, the type of people, anything like that. We just wanted to kind of really focus on the growth of development, how big it would be, and kind of multifamily housing, whether that's a renter in an apartment or an owner in a condo.
Okay, so it's more about the kinds of buildings, basically.
Yes, I think that'd be fair to say.
Okay, thank you.
Questions to my right.
You sounded like Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Just right.
Really quick. Do you have any way to project what the impact would have been on the outcomes? And this may be too many steps, but when you're seeing other surveys that you've done that have not controlled for voters, what kind of impact does it have on the data? Again, you'd be comparing two cities, so that's not going to be perfect, but in general, when you do control for voters, do you know what type of impact you do expect to see in responses?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that when we do kind of do voters versus residents, you would see a older crowd and then much more homeowner crowd as well. So I think it'd be fair to say, at least looking at those demographics and looking how those demographics answered this survey and surveys all across California, doing voters, you would expect that sample to be not too much, but slightly more kind of re-emphasizing the views of those people, of kind of older and then homeowners as well. When you do residents, you have much more of a chance of bringing in younger people and renters as well. And of course, that would kind of provide some different answers as well to that.
And is the demographic data that you're matching of the city or of voters in the city?
Voters in the city.
Okay. And then lastly, this may not be a question for you. What's the best way for the public to access this if they wanted to look at it?
Yeah, we will be posting these online. There is a page for all of our community surveys on our website, and we will be posting this after this meeting.
Awesome. Thanks. That's it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
Just great job. I like the information. It's very informative, but is there a section here, and I didn't see, that we compare with other cities as far as where we align? Is that in here?
No, but that is something that we can add. We can kind of take the other California cities. We like to kind of look who would be, geographic neighbors, population similar size, economics the same size. And then what we can do is provide a benchmarking to that as well, to where, if we see a question that is at least, very similar to one that we've asked here, we can let you know the scores that we see that. And then we can just have a nice little benchmarking chart with Grover Beach on the left here, and then let you know kind of the other cities that you might want to look to as well.
That'd be nice. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, great. All
Real
right.
quick follow-up. Could that be California cities and national? Could that be two different?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions before I open public comment? No? Okay. All right, so I will now open for public comment on items on this, on comments on this item. If anybody wishes to speak, you may come forward. Go ahead. Okay.
Christopher Macarone. I, for one, have to tell you that was one of the best presentations I've ever seen the city, ever. Well documented, great data, transparency, and there are things there that ring true for many of the people in this room who came here tonight. And there are things that give the City Council a lot to think about. Regarding the taxes, and the biggest elephant in the room happens to be the state of California. And they have single-handedly castrated every city and county for making decisions on their own, for taking that away. And when you do that, you're taking away local decision-making and implanting state directive. And that has really torn things apart. And all of the taxes coming out of Sacramento, let's forget the gas taxes for a minute, because we all know what those are all about. But there are other things in the pipeline, things that are being voted on that are going to increase our taxes exponentially in every way possible. So that's about it.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? I saw Ms. Westfall and then Mr. Kovdak.
Thank you, Lauren Westfall. That was a very good presentation. Realistic numbers, not inflated. Last meeting, we had Slowcog here talking about increasing taxes for the highways. Those people that have electric cars, they're actually paying more DMV fees starting last year or the year before, since they don't have to pay the gas tax. They actually have to pay for the roads in other ways through the DMV. X06 and F20 is a sales tax. It all goes into a black pot. Sorry to say, but ever since you guys created those two taxes, raises happened, more people are hired out to do the work that this office used to do. 400 people, 58% said no more building. I just went to a fundraiser this weekend. Last year they raised over $100,000. A person paid $5,000 for a Magdana cake. This year they only paid $500. These were people that were dropping money left and right last year. Their pockets are tight. We can't be taxed right now. We don't know where the hell this country's going. And to add more taxes is just going to move everybody out of California. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Kovdak?
I took a screenshot on one of the slides, and it said 58% say there are too much development of apartments and condos in Grover Beach. That's a lot of people that say we have enough, and the numbers actually do speak to that, because my understanding is we have met the RHNA requirements for 2028 by 3 times the amount that we need. Now, that's why people are saying enough, I suppose, because we've already, with all these developments planned so far, we've already met it, with the exception of low-income housing. We're 83 units short on that. So if you look around, there isn't a lot of low-income housing being built. There was on Rockaway, there were 2 units, but so I guess the people of Grover Beach, according to this survey, are speaking, and I know I'm not going to go back to a non-agenda item that I was talking about, but it does pertain to Beckett Street, and it just show a little restraint, 33 feet. Generations to come can enjoy the public views. And somebody said to me or into the group, you have a stadium, you don't build your highest seats in the front row. Historically, Front Street, if you read the books written about it, that's the front row. And if you build your highest seats of that stadium, and I'm going to say the ocean is the football field, you don't have that anymore. You can never go back. Because unlike a football stadium, which every 30 or 40 years they tear down, these buildings are going to be forever. Generations are going to be not having the luxury of what we've had in our generation, that is to have a beach town. There's enough building, and it's time to show a little restraint. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come up and speak on this item? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line?
Yes, Brenda Auer.
Hello, Ms. Auer.
Of the council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello.
Great. I'm so glad to talk to you. I want to ask you all to wake up. That was not a good presentation. That was a sales pitch. And you know I'm a great salesman, so I know when I've heard a sales pitch. I want to agree with Lauren. We are in a recession. No more sales tax. We can't afford it. The council is not listening. When you just approved to have the manager on for 2030 without disclosing his income, no transparency. At Grover Beach, we're taxed out. Of the 400 survey, how many people are actually homeowners? The new generation, mayors, your generation, cannot afford the sales tax on property. Again, that was a sales pitch. I just can't say it enough. Let's put the height limits on the next agenda. Don't wait till March. And by the way, the gentleman that gave that presentation, he was also interviewing people in North Carolina for data for their town. So how much did we pay him? I will do a survey for half as much as we paid him. The one thing I do agree is single family people agree that 73% of the public want single family homes, not condos. I think I can get a 2,000 survey done without any assistance within 30 days of real property owners or residents that are feeling the need instead of the sales pitch we just heard. Again, I didn't want to call in tonight, but I had to because I'm done with the sales pitches. No more taxes, and give us real facts, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Auer. Is there anybody else on the line? Okay, I will now close public comment on that item and bring it back to the council. There was a question about how many were homeowners and how many were renters out of this survey. Did we have a slide on that? I remember reading it in the presentation, and if we could go back to that slide.
Yeah, if I think I can just go back. There we go.
There we go. That's it. Yep, that's the one.
So we see there 64% home, about 30% rent, and then other that 4% there, which can fall into different places like mobile home as well.
And this may not be fair to ask off the cuff, but do you know what that percentage would look like if it was non-voters included?
Is there someone really good at math here with times 400? But no, but yeah, we can go ahead and figure that out. Being about around 250 or something, so we'll look at that. But I'll get you the actual in total counts for all the demographics as well for this, so you can actually see how many people make up each of the percentage.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. Any questions or any comments regarding the survey? Any comments? No? Go ahead. Go ahead, Councilmember Wyrick.
It's
okay. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
We all being Canadian now.
I know everybody's being too nice. Go ahead.
I super appreciate the survey, and it does give us lots to think about. And I wanted to follow back on a comment about the balance between what we actually have jurisdiction over and state requirements and the RENA numbers, because the RENA numbers are only one factor that ties the hands of cities. And I did have a nice conversation with Assembly member Addis this week, expressing the continued frustration about the lack of local control. So I'm looking forward to our planning meeting where we can really sit down collectively, and we're waiting till March so that we can get the Planning Commission and us all on the same page for the same meeting, which is not a small feat, but so that we can have an honest conversation that balances what people want with the realities that we do and do not have control over, and see where we can find the best place to come together to be responsive and reflective of what people want that keeps us in line with the restrictions that are being put on us while we continue to lobby for less restrictions. So thank you so much. This helps us do our job with a much more broader brush. So thanks.
Okay.
And I do want to express appreciation too, especially since, and thank you for defining how the research is done too. So it's not just a bunch of people have a bunch of friends over and they all, say what they want, but it's, covers across our entire city's demographics and spectrum. I mean, one of the things that I did take away from it is, our goals are usually cover all these different areas and they're all intersecting. I guess the streets part rising shouldn't be too surprising because we did have a delay basically of a year of that work. So people I'm pretty sure did see stuff not actually happening for a period when they were used to.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting that during this past year, because I talked to residents about a bunch of things too. I mentioned, yes, our goals and our priorities. And one of the areas that was interesting when I talked about the water and sewer infrastructure and needed resources, I always talked about them in context of the streets. That's like, well, hey, isn't it the smart thing the city's been doing for a while, which is do the stuff underneath it first, then do the top part. It seems to be the best way to do it, and people tend to agree. But I did have more than a few people, and they don't show up to these meetings. They don't participate, really. But they even were like, well, are you sure you're doing that too for the streets, or are you doing that for development? And I think that how that kind of sentiment rose where these conversations about development are more widespread than just, participation at our meetings. It's covers and for people to have a sense of wondering why we're doing things where, like I said, for me, it's like, well, I just want our sewer systems to work. I just want to flush the toilets. I want, water to come out of spout. But for a broader sentiment of how people are feeling, basically we asked people, they answered, and are we going to do with anything with what they say? That's the big question I have when it comes to the survey, because it's, like I said, it's gone much further in this part too. And yes, as Councilmember Tuggle says, there's a lot of areas that we don't actually have authority over too. But how are we responding to? I mean, and I know that it's very tricky on how to have those community conversations too, but it seems like we do need to have clearly more, because right now it's kind of it seems like there's a black hole that exists, and some people come to our meetings. We have some people who come here regularly, but then a bunch of others who obviously don't, from the numbers, aren't being engaged as well. Nope. So I do want to, and like I said, I don't want people, when it comes to our second priority of really building community trust, doubt the simple things that they want us to do. Obviously, they want us to do the infrastructure. They want us to do the streets. They want us to do the wastewater and water systems to make sure that they're functional, that they don't keep on breaking like our water systems have had some issues recently. And so I do want to reemphasize that our priorities, we do need to follow through on how to do that better too. They do this every couple of years, which is great. But if we don't act upon it, then it does lead, that big gap of, well, thanks for asking, but what's next? So I do hope we figure out more of a what's next. Obviously, the session in the future that we're having is a piece of it, but it seems like there's much more that needs to be done. And we can't always hire professionals to do all that for us, though.
Okay. Yes, and thank you so much for doing this survey. I know we do have a lot of individuals that come to our meetings, but we also have a lot of individuals in our community that they're feeding their children right now. They're maybe working the night shift. So this is just another tool that we have to get the voices of our community. So thank you for doing that, and it just helps us with our community or with our goals and to move forward as a council and for our city. So anything else that anybody wanted to mention from a staff point of view at all?
No, there's no action needed either.
Okay.
This was just a receive and file.
And I'll just mention that, and good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hi.
Hello there. This is our, I want to say, 6th survey since 2017, and we do this every 2 years to get a baseline sentiment and then measure our progress over time. And to the council member's point regarding implementing results, our city does have a good track record of really putting these results to action in terms of council priorities and goals, operations and services, areas to focus our resources and attention to, and that's a key next step from the survey results to really help inform your council as our governing body for what's most important to you. And coming up on February 23rd, we'll have our update on our council goals and priorities. So that's really where your council will have the opportunity to take in this information and decide how that affects your current priorities. Are there some changes to those priorities, or do you want to keep them in place but maybe provide further direction on the implementation and next steps with those priorities? So that's coming up on February 23rd. I'll also mention February 10th. We have a street repair update scheduled with your council. At the very next council meeting, that will be an opportunity to really hone in on what's coming up next with Measure K14. We have a couple projects that are nearing final design and can proceed into construction over the next year, along with how major streets fit in. So we hear the interest in streets. We see that as well. And I think over the next year, we're going to see a lot more progress because we have the ability to do so and the funding to help carry that out over the next year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other comments before we say thank you and goodbye? Okay, thank you and goodbye. We appreciate it. And then if we don't mind, can we just take a quick 5-minute break, maybe, or be back at 7:45? Yes, thank you. Okay, let's do it. Thank you so much. All right, welcome back. Okay, now we're going to move on to business item number 9, the state legislation update and review of 2026 legislative platform. But first, I need to call on Councilmember Wyrick.
Good evening, and for item number 9 on the agenda, I'll please note that I've chosen to recuse myself from consideration of this item based on a potential conflict of interest. While I have no financial interest regarding this item, to avoid the appearance of impropriety related to my employment with previous and continued direct involvement in matters on this item through that appointment, I've decided to recuse myself. This is consistent with actually at our last meeting on item 8, where I recused myself for the same reason, and much of that content's reflected, in this same matter. So given that, I will step down from the dais and from the hearing item and voluntarily leave the room as legally permitted by the statutes governing conflicts of interest.
Thank you. We'll wait a couple minutes for him to exit the room. Okay, thank you. I will now call on to Assistant City Manager Erickson.
It's the mayor's prerogative tonight.
I guess you can go home.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So this will just be a very brief update on legislation that was passed in 2025 on the state level that most affects city operations or directly impacts the city. And then we'll conclude with a discussion of our upcoming 2026 legislative platform for your approval this evening. So in the general government area, we did see a few bills that will directly impact the city. In the area of human resources, there is a new requirement that the city provide notice to any of our employee groups, meaning unions, for when we're going to put out a contract or an RFP or a renewal for services that may be within the scope of a job description within the city. The most likely impact would be that we would have some delays in our projects or services because we would have to give that notice period ahead of time before we went out to bid or do a solicitation. SB 827 adds additional training requirements for both elected officials and department heads in our city. Ethics training is now mandatory every 2 years beginning in 2028. And then there's a new section of financial training, which is very vaguely defined, and we are waiting to get more guidance on what that will look like. But again, that will be every 2 years required for all elected officials and department heads starting in 2028. So as soon as we do secure resources for that training, we will be in touch with your council on your requirements. In the Brown Act area, we did see SB 707 pass. This requires all public meetings to allow attendance via two-way telephonic services or an AV platform. And we already do this as a city. We do have our call-in feature for residents to give their public comment. However, now we will have to attempt to cure any interference in that system for at least an hour before resuming business if for some reason there is an outage of some kind during a council meeting. And so we'll be staying on top of that, making sure that all of our systems are working as best we can. In the other area, or just kind of general category, SB 482 now requires cities to submit an updated list of our local officials to the Secretary of State every time there's a general election within 120 days. And we will be complying with that. And then SB 333 allows the proposed slow-cog transportation sales tax measure to be exempted from the combined sales tax limit for cities in SLO County, and that is, of course, if voters were to approve that measure. In the public safety area, one of the bigger legislative hits to public safety lately won't take effect until 2031, but they will be requiring a degree in modern policing within 36 months of a newly hired police officer's basic post training. The most likely anticipated effects of this will be that it may make recruitments a bit more difficult, and when recruiting is difficult in the safety area, over time increases and the costs related to that. Also, we anticipate having additional staff resources needed for the tracking and facilitating of these educational programs as they're developed. On the bright side, however, education is never a bad thing, and so we will have a more educated police force being required. In the area of transportation and public works, SB 105 is just appropriating what we were promised with the Prop 4 climate bond funds, and that includes $1.18 billion for water resiliency, which is directly applicable potentially for the city. We are about to embark on a water supply study, and that may present some opportunities for seeking grant funding within this climate bond funding for upcoming water supply needs. In the community development area, this is kind of just a list of bills that require some additional compliance on the city's part, including clarifies some of our requirements for Coastal Commission, coordination for sea rise level plans. AB 610 is just beginning with the 7th RHNA cycle, requires a disclosure of any planned constraints in our housing element. AB 670, beginning in 2027, will require the city to just provide additional information in our annual reports to HCD. And then SB 346 requires STR facilitators like Airbnb or VRBO to provide the city with a list of all STRs listed on their platforms and to give us audit authority over that information. So that should help with compliance. So we will be talking about state housing law in far more depth in March, as has been discussed with your joint meeting with the Planning Commission, but just a very high level review for now. SB 79 requires beginning in 2026 that urban transit counties, cities within urban transit counties, approve any qualifying housing projects within a half mile of a transit stop with limited or no environmental review and a height of 5 to 9 stories and a density of 80 to 120 dwellings. Staff does not believe that this city should qualify due to our train station, but it remains to be seen what HCD will say about that. AB 507 requires beginning in July of 2026 approval of adapted reuse projects ministerially and exempts qualifying projects from being called violations that are subject to enforcement. So just more limiting of local control over these types of approvals. AB 712 allows fines against local agencies of up to $10,000 for violation of housing reform laws, state laws. And then AB 130 is the big one that created numerous CEQA exemptions for qualifying housing projects and made permanent builders' remedy protections and limitations on discretionary hearings. It also requires ministerial housing projects be approved or denied within 60 days of a complete application. And so again, we'll get much more into depth with this in the March joint meeting. Moving now into our legislative platform, just as a refresher, the platform's purpose is to just clearly set forward general positions on things that impact city operations. This is intended to be a high-level expression of your council's priorities. This provides us with the optimum flexibility for staff to be able to quickly respond to legislation as we see it arise. So we work with the mayor as the representative of the council on support or opposition letters throughout the year that are within the legislative platform. And then we would annually review all of those with your council, as was done with the staff report. The intent is to focus on your top priorities and the broad principles, and we will note that we do tend to follow Cal City's tracking of bills that impact cities the most. We do not, however, have staff resources to be able to track all legislation throughout the state, and so we are limited in some sense about what we can respond to. Our platform is divided into sections in general government, where we really seek to support local control and address local needs and try to get rid of those unfunded mandates that come our way sometimes. Local government finance is generally, we support legislation protecting our revenues and opposing unfunded mandates again, and any restrictions on revenues and the use of them for the city. In the public safety area, it generally supports funding and support for emergency response and crime reduction. In the area of transportation and public works, our platform generally supports funding and expedited processes for capital projects and any key funding for water supply projects and other infrastructure projects. Under the category of resources and environment, our platform generally supports funding and programs related to energy and water supply projects, as well as organic waste disposal. And in community development, the platform generally supports funding for homelessness programs and legislation to reform cannabis regulations in support of that industry, as well as protections for our TOT revenues. There are two possible changes that are up for your consideration this evening from the 2025 platform. The first is to add support for legislation to extend operations at Diablo Canyon Power Plant and to reinstate either a unitary tax that was previously applied or provide some other financial mitigation to the region. That was supported by your council at a previous meeting, and so this would just be codifying that within the platform. Additionally, Councilmember Robert suggested that we add opposition to any legislation that would increase the maximum allowable truck weights and or allow twin trailer trucks. This is not as directly applicable to the city as it mostly would impact highways. However, it is being supported by numerous other entities in the county, including the SLO County Sheriff. So those are the two possible changes for your consideration this evening. And our recommendation is that you approve the platform with or without those changes or any other additional changes you would like to suggest this evening. And I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. I had a question about SB 79. Was there a population attached to that one? I thought that there was something along the lines of under X population, you wouldn't have to be privy to this height of 5 to 9 stories with density. Oh, thank you, Ms. Martin. Hello.
Thank you. Community Development Director Martin. So the population, as I recall, off the top of my head, has to do with whether or not the community itself is falls under, there's 2 or 3 different designations, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but the population doesn't have to do with whether it's eligible for the 6 to 9 stories. It's just whether or not the community itself falls under like a metropolitan or a rural. I won't speak to it, but it classifies each community under a distinct category, and then of those, only certain ones will then qualify adjacent to a major transit station, which is what community development staff has pushed back on with HCD about whether or not Grover Beach's train station is even considered a major transit stop, which we still allege that it is not.
Okay.
So that's kind of more of the major implication here, is that if HCD refuses that statement that our staff is making and our city attorney has taken a look at as well, if they refuse that allegation, they technically have the legal authority to require that we comply with SB 79.
Okay.
So we're continuing to look into this
Okay.
and make sure that we approach it at the most strategic angle to not have to be qualified under that.
Okay, thank you. Because like we're all within this half mile situation. So
Yeah, and Mayor, the focus really from the legislative intent was really on a handful of counties in the Bay Area and Southern California: San Mateo, Santa Clara, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And while there is still some potential uncertainty, it's the end result, SB 79, really narrowed down explicitly to those counties for now, with additional analysis HCD may be doing with other counties like ours, which is a rural suburban county.
Okay.
So I think it's still something that we need to watch carefully, because there could be a further definition, but the intent really is honed in on the urban areas for now.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that question. Okay, questions to my left?
No questions.
Questions to my right?
3 questions. The Brown Act and the calling in, would that apply for our Parks Commission as well, or is that exempt?
It does apply as well for any Brown Act meeting.
That's what I thought. So, and we don't currently do call-ins for parks, correct?
We do allow call-ins for Parks and Recreation now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then AB 339, in what situation can you give like a for example why that would even come into play? Where you'd be contracting out something that's part of somebody's job.
Sure.
Yeah.
For example, our Public Works Department will periodically contract out for certain engineering services. If any of those services fall within a definition of either our senior engineer position or our associate engineer position, we would have to, our associate engineer position is in SEIU union, for example. So we would have to give SEIU notice ahead of any solicitation or contract renewal with that regard.
And this is already passed, or
correct? This is in effect. Yeah.
And then lastly, do we have any numbers on how impactful we are with what we support, or what Cal Cities supports as far as being able to push back against the state for unfunded mandates, local control, and the things that are important to all of us?
We've certainly had support and or opposition that has, I guess, the legislation went our way. On unfunded mandates, the state tends to be fairly deaf to a chorus of cities that push back against that. And in housing law in particular, the push for Cal Cities pushes have not been successful, generally speaking.
Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
Maybe just a statement. I was trying to find out the opposition of that traffic, what that bill was, but he said twin trailers, but it's actually increasing to 3 trailers. I know we don't see those here in California, but they wanted to increase those to 3 trailers behind 1 tractor. So that's crazy. Anyway, I don't know if we need to detail that or not.
We could certainly, if there's concurrence to add it to the platform, we could just say multiple trailers to cover all the bases on the federal legislation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I will open public comment on this item. Does anybody wish to come up and speak on this item? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? I will close public comment for this item and bring it back to the council for discussion and a motion. So I believe we heard that we would like to add many trailers.
I would just say multiple trailers, yeah, and then that should cover however many they decide to allow.
Do we have concurrence on that? Yes. Yes. Okay. Anything else that we wanted to add or change, or any questions?
Can you go back to the 2 proposed changes?
So the 2 major proposed changes is one, just to codify your council's support of the county's request for legislation to keep Diablo Canyon open for an additional 20 years, and then to either reapply that unitary tax or come up with some other state-funded financial mitigation for the region, and then also the increased sizes of trucks.
Okay. Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to?
All right, so you can make the motion.
Yeah, I make a motion to adopt the platform as written here.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Tuggle?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert?
Yes.
Councilmember McCrory Driscoll?
Yes.
Mayor D?
Yes.
And let the record show that Councilmember Wyrick has recused himself.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. That passes, and thank you for putting it all together, adding the changes and everything. Chief, may you please go get Councilmember Wyrick? Thank you. Need some holding music. Yeah. Okay. All right, now we will move on to council committee reports. I will call on Councilmember McCrory Driscoll.
January started off quiet. I have nothing to report.
Okay, Councilmember Tuggle. Uh-oh.
All right, I will try to be succinct and stick to what I think people need or want to know from the meetings I've attended. HSOC met, that's the Homeless Oversight Committee. They have officially their point in time count tomorrow morning. They'll be meeting at 5 a.m. and rolling out across the entire county. They got more volunteers than they needed, which is amazing. It'll give us a good snippet in time. They've been struggling a lot with funding. They went to a request for grants was a 2-year, and then with the new administration, they decided no, they're going to make it a 1-year, and then they pushed back legally, and then now it's going to be a 2-year maybe, and. So those in the Homeless Services Committee or community deserve all of our love and appreciation and maybe a sweet treat or something because they are working overtime. And we did elect new leadership for HSOC. And then to close on a win for the Homeless Oversight Committee, they had a point in time about 5 years ago count that had 300 vets, and they currently have that, or homeless vets, and they currently have that number at 30. So they're talking about actually being able to say we've, solved homelessness amongst vets in San Luis Obispo County, which is huge. The chamber had its lots going on, but the thing I wanted to highlight most was you can get their program guide, and they have it set up so you can sign up for classes ahead of time, and you can plan your whole year out and even pay in advance. So I thought that was great because I love getting things on my calendar and wanted to make sure other people, you can go to their website, South County Chambers, if you want to take business classes, attend mixers, et cetera, et cetera. Zone 3, we are still in the middle of a lawsuit with environmentalist plaintiffs, but there is a stay, or not a stay, yeah. So we're returned to regular water flow or original water flow for a bit, and mediation started. So we'll get posted on that as we move forward. There.
Great job. Okay, Councilmember Wyrick.
Yep, I have one tonight. So on Thursday, January 15th, I attended the Community Action Partnership of San Luis Obispo County, aka CAPSLO, Board of Directors regular meeting. Yes, we had some routine business and reports from the liaisons from the different programs. We ended up approving a lot of different things, such as applications for funding, financing, licenses for different programs CAPSLO operates. One thing to note is that this included United States Environmental Protection Agency, aka EPA, won their brownfield and land revitalization grants for the 40 Prado site, which is next to the 40 Prado Homeless Services Center. And it's intended to clean up the site for future use as a multifamily facility. At this point, 32 supportive housing units, 42 shelter units, for 126 beds for all in-house families. So it's basically a family site that ultimately go there. And then the following day, on Friday, January 16th, I attended on behalf of the CAPSLO board a presentation that Congressmember Salud Carbajal sent at one of our Head Start sites in San Luis Obispo, since the National Head Start Association, NHSA, awarded him their Promise Award, which is acronym for protecting our most important students early. And one of the things in his career is that people don't know is actually in Santa Barbara County, he was a Head Start employee. So a lot of the different legislation he sponsored and different funding initiatives he's backed over the time too did earn his award, and he got to meet some of the kids there at the Head Start site and toured around too after the award presentation. So it was a privilege to be there as well.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a meeting, the Integrated Waste Management Authority, on February 14th, and we finally sold the property, or closed on the property, on Oso Street. So that building is no longer a part of the organization. It's a beautiful building right across the street from the city chambers. Also, the director is going to participate, and he was here tonight, Cody Sky. I don't know if you saw him, but he was here tonight. He's going to participate in the leadership program, South County. So he's excited about that. And we had some budget reviews. We also lost our accountant, so we're in the hunt for a new accountant. What else? Bookkeeping services. I think that was about it. The biggest part of that was closing the property, 870 Oso Street. That's it. Thank you.
Good. Okay. As for me, I didn't necessarily have any meetings other than SLOCOG. We had a workshop that was a Brown Act noticed workshop with the public and with a lot of our members. It was really interesting because it was just a chance to sit down with each group of staff and go over like strategic plans and what we're doing for the future, because so many times we're in these meetings and we're in the middle of a strategic plan. So learning more about what our long-term goals, short-term goals, and the SLOCOG tax as well. We spoke a little bit more about that and gave some more direction. So it was a really cool way to have this workshop. So I did that the day after our last council meeting. And that's it for me for council committee reports. So now we will move on to council communications. And I'm going to go over some general public comment first. I wanted to first just put on the record really quick. There was a comment made about our city manager and assistant city manager making $750,000. And actually, it looks like it's $575,000 combined. And I was able to find this out because I went to the website that is very accessible. It's called publicpay.ca.gov. In addition to that, on the city website, you can see our public employees' salaries. So I just wanted to just put that on record, that there is a way. There was a comment about wishing that there was a way to see these salaries, and there is. So publicpay.ca.gov, plus the salary schedule, thank you, is on the website as well. So I wanted to make that comment. I also wanted to address a question. Did we pay for an environmental report on, I believe, Front Street?
The answer is no. The developer paid for that. We do the contract to avoid developer bias, but then the developer reimburses the city for the cost of that work.
Oh, that's smart. Okay. Thank you so much for answering that question. We also heard a lot of comments about 4th Street, the speed on 4th Street, the turn lane on 4th Street, and how there's a turn lane, but not a turn signal. I wanted to ask about that process and maybe see if there's concurrence within the council to address it moving forward.
Thank you, Mayor. And actually, staff is already working on this. So we've done some traffic counting at the corner of 4th and Grand with regards to not just the possibility of turning activities, but just the intersection in general. And that is something that we'll be bringing to your council as part of the circulation element update that we are presenting to you on March 9th. So that is coming up at a future meeting, and we'll be able to speak more to that and how that reflects in the future policies within the circulation element. Putting in a left turn lane and left turn light going on to Grand Avenue is something that we could do. It's a matter of looking at the data, looking at the activity and how that would affect traffic flow at that intersection. But it is something that we are working on already, and we'll bring that further to your council in March. With regards to the stop sign, we have communicated with Ms. Weeks previously on this topic, and essentially the process is defined in our code where our city engineer, public works director, city engineer, is responsible for looking at the request and looking at the data and considering what's called a warrant study. Does the warrant meet the definition of putting in a four-way traffic control? And that's really important because in order to have defensible enforcement, we have to have a warrant study that backs that up. It is something that we are looking at, and we're also looking at this as part of the circulation element update, and we'll be weaving this into that conversation coming up on March 9th. Putting stop signs is a complicated process because of the data that has to go into it, because you are affecting traffic flow. Lastly, I'll just say with the chief here, we are doing some additional traffic enforcement work along North 4th Street, given some concerns we've gotten. So you'll see more activity taking place there as we speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm really happy to hear that it's already in motion. We're already doing the work, and we're going to be hearing about it here soon. So thank you very much. Okay, now we'll just go on to the rest of council communications. I'll call on Councilmember McCrory Driscoll.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I toured the Cleaver and Clark Commons last week, and being the wife of a farmer, I have to say I was pleased to hear that there were 17 units for farm workers set aside. So, and it's a beautiful facility. I also attended the State of the County at the Chamber and found it very informative. So, thank you to the Chamber for putting that on. Also, tomorrow at the County Board of Supervisors, there's going to be a conversation. I'm praying for calm at it, but there's a new procedure that the Sheriff's Office is going to take in that incarcerated individuals that are being released that are undocumented workers will be turned directly over to ICE, depending on the level of crime they have committed. So I just find that very interesting, and the reason I pray for calm is because of what's going on in the rest of our country regarding ICE. On a positive note, the sunsets are beautiful this time of year, and I have thoroughly appreciated getting down to the beach and enjoying those. And lastly, there were several comments tonight about unfunded mandates, state restrictions on local control, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just encourage everyone to really write to their state representatives, and we just need to be heard. We all agree, but sometimes then elections happen and we vote for the same people to come in and keep telling us the same thing. And so I just really, really believe that we need to understand that this is our state, and it is our responsibility of voters to pay attention to what they're doing to us. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you for your comments. Councilmember Tuggle.
Thanks. I'm going to piggyback on that because at the chamber event, I thought that we got a lot of good information about what our different legislators, there we go, are doing. And one of the things that I think, one of the issues of the impact of state decisions on our local control is oftentimes because we are a smaller entity, the larger entities shape a lot of the policy. So San Francisco Bay Area and LA, San Diego to a lesser extent. But this is the first time that our local electeds have a caucus and are running things at all levels. I mean, the Senate Pro Tem down to important committee chairs. And so I was really hopeful that our voice might be amplified a little bit more going forward, and I do think it's now is a really good time to lean in and say, please keep speaking. So there's that. Fourth and Grand and the circulation, I was going to ask about that and talk about that, but that coupled with the Front Street, one of the community members said something about, well, you should walk there, and I think it's a good reminder, like, I do. I run miles upon miles upon miles in our city. Actually, somebody at CalFresh behind the checkery said, did I see you out running? I said, you did. And in general, I think there was multiple moments today that we were reminded that we all live here together and that we want to work together. And I know that's the truth for the people that I'm representing with, and feeling that resonated with those who want to see things be different than they currently are, but where we can come together and trust that we're really going to work together. That is why I'm here. So that made my day. And then I too Googled real quick. I was like, salary schedule, and it was on the website. I was like, okay, I was a little nervous for a second. And then this came to me, and it's a gumbo contest, and my parents loved Cajun food and gumbo, so I got really excited about it. My parents actually went Cajun dancing. Anyhow, that's another story. And it is on Saturday, February 28th. You pay $20 to sample gumbo, and all the money goes to the food bank. And if you want to enter, they said they have room for more entries. I have never actually made gumbo, so I'm not going to do that as my debut, but all right. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you for those comments. Councilmember Wyrick.
Yeah, I got two short things, one long thing. But before that, I did want to actually, just since we're here, I was made aware that the cities of Morro Bay, Arroyo Grande, Pismo Beach, Paso Robles, and County Board of Supervisors, they already have set for next month to do a proclamation on Black History Month, but our city hasn't yet. And I just do want to see if we could get concurrence to add that for next month, because it's right around the corner. We only have 2 meetings left.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So, all right, we got it out of the way. So there's that. The two short ones is one, yesterday, the Filipino Community Center had their chicken barbecue. Always good to support their heritage, since they have their community center in Grover Beach. And it was the first time I had their barbecue using their new barbecue, and it came out tasting just as good. So that's all good. And I know was our city manager will probably go in this deeper too, but last Saturday on January 24th, I did attend our City of Grover Beach annual all staff employee recognitions, and it's always good to see all of our employees in a little bit less formal setting too, and how they celebrate their work too, and really see the camaraderie play amongst people from different departments too. Since that's not, obviously we see certain staff who come here and present to us, but to see everyone really engaged was in such a positive way was great. So yes, congrats to our Employee of the Year. Pulled off some miracles and stuff. Was it last summer? to such a degree that people were saying, maybe we should keep on doing this where I was living. But I'm like, oh, probably going to transition back to Ramona Garden Park. I'm pretty sure of that. So, and then the long one I did want to note is last Thursday on January 22nd, I attended League California Cities, aka Cal Cities Community Services Policy Committee as its vice chair. The reason why this part's long, because it was a 5-hour long meeting, and basically outside of the normal. Oh no, but we went all the way till the end, and so yes, we had new members, orientation, updated our policy documents with changes that were made by our board of directors for the state, and then had updates on our state legislative and proposed state budget for 2026 through 2027. Now, one of the areas that Councilmember Tuggle will be most interested in, though, is one of the Cal City statewide organizational 2026 advocacy priorities. One of those falls within the Community Services Committee's purview, which is homelessness. And the significant thing is that it was noted that Cal Cities is looking to sponsor a bill authored by Assemblymember Salache related to the California Community Development of Community Housing (HCD) for their their homeless housing assistance and prevention, the aka HAP, to make the funding more accessible to small cities in particular, as it's generally geared towards populations of 300,000 or more. So for our city, for instance, to be as competitive, just within that too, outside of the continuum of care part, is more difficult. And basically their bill, some of the elements, because accountability standards are always still there, is it would require the city still has to have a compliant housing element, obviously, and participate in HAP's of regional planning process to get, in which doing those would also get it on the top of the list of the Continuum Care, or CLC, which Councilmember Tuggle serves on, as she noted, for HSOC, or County Homeless Services Oversight Council. So that's one little piece come from Cal Cities. And we had 2 presentations. The first one I introduced the California Conservation Corps, aka CCC, their Deputy Director of Legislative and External Affairs, Brandon Chapin, who provided an overview of their work in local communities such as fuel mitigation, building trails, other things. Their core members are 18 to 25 years old. For those who are military veterans, up to 29 years old. Their focus is mainly natural resources work combined with workforce development. And that's why for people who want to be a core member, there's no educational requirement barriers, come from all backgrounds of life, and they get to pick their geographical locations when eventually comes. And our area does have the Los Padres Center, which is located next to Cuesta College's San Luis Obispo main campus. So it was accessible to do work, even in our city, as long as you work in agreements on projects. But apparently they're fairly affordable. And the CCC's 50th anniversary is this year in our state, and all the committee's members were very excited about potential partnerships, especially helping young adults with their futures. And the second one, which was a very heavy discussion, was a presentation from the California Budget and Policy Center on an overview of the federal impacts of Medi-Cal and homelessness in California. So basically the big takeaways stuff was that there's going to be some deep cuts that were planned through HR 1 that's going to impact the state and local funding side of things, and then how the proposed state budget right now for 2026 through 2027, how that's responding, but it doesn't have much, and what this means for basically our vulnerable members of our community, especially in behavioral health services, in addition to obviously the healthcare services. So Medi-Cal is the state's Medicaid program, and 1/3 of California residents are on it, and 2/3 of all federal funding apparently that goes to the state does support Medi-Cal. So it's the biggest one we have, and some of the state funding does kind of pair with that, but it's mainly federal funding. And also, we were given fair warning that HR 1 also does have deep cuts to SNAP, which is Food Benefit Assistance Program. So they said about 3 million Californians are opposed to lose their food benefits, which is a cause of concern for our lower income and fixed income residents, especially when it comes to homelessness too. And I did, in preparation of that meeting, talk with our Assembly member Dawn Addis the day before, since she's chair of the Assembly Budget Subcommittee number 1, whose primary jurisdiction is on Medi-Cal, and basically, for the previous conversations, echoed a lot of things we heard and additional concerns. So Cal Cities didn't have a position on Medi-Cal. There's great interest by our committee to do one, especially given the impacts amongst our constituents it's going to have widespread effects on. So that's in discussion to talk about further. But yep, the 5-hour long meetings.
Thank you so much. Okay, as for my communications, if you're not aware, I do hold office hours or just coffee every month, the third Saturday of the month, currently at Grover Station Grill from 9 to 10 a.m. So if you're ever out and about and want to join me, I know there's some people in the audience that come and join me, and I really appreciate that. So I do that. But we also have Coffee with Council coming up on February 5th. That's next Thursday. Sorry, I'm getting my weeks. January just seems so long. From 9 to 10:30 a.m. at Perfetto, and I will be there with Mayor Pro Tem. So please come out and join us, ask questions, tell us things. We want to talk about things, educate, and answer any questions you might have. So I just want to invite the community out to that. And other than that, the employee party was wonderful this last Saturday. Yeah, just absolutely amazing. So I'll let City Manager Bronson speak. Oh, it was because Councilmember Wyrick was. I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. I talk so long that everyone forgets whose turn it is next.
I'm real short.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm so
I will
sorry.
be real short.
You wait 1 second, Mr. Bronson. Go on.
Pancake breakfast coming up Sunday, Manhattan and 13th Street. Please come, 8 to 11 at the Grange. And I would like to bring this up again since someone from the public brought it up. I would like to see our photographs of our history, possibly on that back wall even, and I'd like to see if I can get a concurrence with the council that could happen soon, because I've spoke of this for some time and it still hasn't happened. So can we get some direction for staff to make that happen?
I definitely love this idea. I know that there was a lot of work put into putting the names up on the back wall. We do have the names of all of our past councils and mayors. As far as photos go, I would love, if I can do one on top of that, I would love to see, instead of having staff direct this, maybe we can have a community group come together and help staff with this task, if that's maybe less strain on our staff time.
And just to speak to this further, we did receive this direction a while back, and we did our best effort, but we just couldn't track down sufficient pictures to really make this realistic for us as staff. And so our attempt was to do the poster in the back that had the names dating back to 1959. So to the mayor's point, if there was an interest in having a grassroots effort in doing this, that would probably be the best approach, because 65 years of history and pictures, that's a lot of photographs to assemble through the decades.
I was under the impression that we had all those down in the basement. They're not there?
We do not, no. And we don't have a basement per se that they're located in. We had some of them, and we looked at some of them, but we just did not have sufficient numbers, and it would have been a significant effort on our end when we don't have those built-in connections.
I like that idea.
Just brainstorming, because I've never actually thought about it before. Would it be more doable or would you be able to speak to this if it just a picture was the highlight, was the mayor, and then just the list of the council members under that mayor? Is that any more accessible, or?
So before we move further,
that's a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
If you're going to do everybody, and then the councils are going to change, and.
Yeah, Councilmember Wyrick.
The weird part is, back in the day, the mayor rotated, so actually it'll hit up a lot of the council members. So, but I do think that yes, if basically we give direction for this part too, which basically, the pictures you all do have are available for whoever would put this together too, and the ones that we can't find pictures, I mean, I've seen those walls on other city, council chambers, and sometimes there's a blank area. I mean, that just happens. So, and luckily, I think Mayor Pro Tem knows someone who knows a lot of history and can probably search and find a lot of these pictures that are missing. So,
okay, so I think just real quick, how big of pictures are we? How many people are we talking about? I don't really have.
Look at the list.
I know, but I'm blind.
Yeah. Okay, so before we move further, and so let's. How about before Ms. Thompson cuts us off, Mayor Pro Tem Robert. Okay, sounds good. All right, good. So let's start with the grassroots, and then if we don't have any movement moving forward, then we can get to staff, or
Sounds like a
agendized to get to staff. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Good, perfect, thank you. Was that it for your council? I'm so sorry for, it was really important information for you to share, Councilmember Wyrick. I do apologize for that comment.
I talk long, I know it.
All right, now we'll go over to City Manager Bronson for his communications.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few points. First, I wanted to call out the tremendous response from our police department last Saturday night to a domestic violence call that took place and then resulted in a barricaded suspect and a SWAT response. The event was very sad and ultimately ended up in a peaceful surrender of the barricaded suspect with a 2-year-old who came out unharmed and was put into family's care. A lot of different dynamics in this, and I wanted to recognize the professionalism and expertise of our police department and how they jumped right into this, working with allied agencies from local areas, including the California Highway Patrol, to help make sure that this was resolved safely and peacefully, including for the surrounding neighborhood. So that just shows the professionalism of our Guru Beach Police Department and what they do each and every day to help keep our community safe. Moving from that to sewers. The basics of local government could cover everything. So I just wanted to mention that activity is ramping up for our sewer upgrade project that is underway. You're seeing a lot of activity now on North 8th Street, on Ramona Avenue, Manhattan Avenue. We're going to see new manholes, new connection lines, new sewer upgrades. So there's going to be a lot of activity over the next several months, and you're going to also see some parking impacts. We're doing our very best to make sure that we limit the parking impacts, but there will be some impacts along the way as the construction company does their work as quickly and efficiently as possible. But this shows the implementation of your council's policy direction and a sewer rate structure to help modernize our sewer system for years to come. I also want to highlight that beginning this past week, we have now put out a Public Records Act portal on our website for the public to submit online submittals of Public Records Act requests and for the public to see pending Records Act requests so that everybody can see what's been submitted, by whom, and what the material is. So that's a way for us to increase our transparency and engagement. We'll be putting pending requests on the portal as time permits, but for requests coming forward, this will be an automatic portal that will be very helpful for us going forward.
Real quick follow-up on that. Does that do some of the retrieving of the documents, or is that still all staff manpower?
That's all staff manpower. Yeah. One thing it will do, though, is if there's repeat requests for the same type of material, they can access someone else's prior request and maybe get it handled there instead of asking staff again.
Okay. Yeah. That's a baby step in the right direction.
Yeah. And again, the transparency is the biggest benefit of this to make it easier to submit and make it more transparent about what's been submitted for the public. And then lastly, just to touch on a couple comments from earlier, we did have our annual employee party, recognition party last Saturday, and we're pleased to recognize Larry Kim in Community Services as our 2025 Employee of the Year for all the tremendous work that he's done. I won't belabor the point because we'll bring Larry in here on February 10th to present the award to him and speak even more about Mr. Kim, but he's done a fantastic job over the past year. With that, I'll yield.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to City Attorney's reports, comments, and if you can just lead us into closed session, please.
Sure. I don't have any comments or reports, so I will read the closed session description. The City Council will meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, and the case is Friends of Oceano Dunes et al. Versus California Coastal Commission et al. Case number CD Cal number 217 CV 8733.
Thank you. I will now open public comments on this item. If anybody wishes to speak on this item, you can come forward. Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? Then I will close for public comments on this item, and we will now move into closed session. Thank you so much.